Yo, what's going on, guys? Dr. Ethan Turner here with the Fantasy Headliners, and it's time for your Week 6 Injury Update Show. This is the show where I go through every single NFL matchup and tell you all the injuries that I'm paying attention to so you guys don't have to for your fantasy teams. But before we get into it, make sure you go over and check out our friends over at Fantrax. They got a great app. They got all sorts of fantasy sports starting up right now. All these sports are starting. We got the NBA. We got NCAA basketball coming up. If you're into hockey, they got hockey leagues. So if that sounds like something would be interesting to you, head over to your app store, grab the Fantrax app, use the code Headliners, let them know that we sent you. But let's get into it, guys. Week 6 Injury Update Show. Let's ride. All right, guys, let's get into it. First up, sad moment. We do have a moment of silence. Rashad Penny with an ankle fracture. He fractured the ankle, also had a high ankle sprain and also a deltoid ligament sprain. So ankle is just pretty mangled up. We're looking at about 4 to 6 month recovery. He did have surgery. It was successful, but sadly his season is over. So moment of silence, Rashad Penny. Just a real bummer. This guy just can't seem to make it happen. Health-wise, it just always seems like he is dealing with something. And once again, season-ending injury. I think this is probably the third time that we've had something like that with Rashad Penny. Just a real shame because I feel like the guy is pretty talented when he is healthy. So pour one out for Rashad Penny. He is done for the year, and you can drop him in fantasy. Let's go into our accuracy report. Last week, pretty solid week. Not going to lie, 94% on in-out calls. I'm at 88% on the year. I'd like to get that number up to 90. Hopefully this week is the week. Did have a few misses. Julio Jones, a little bit of a surprise sit. I thought he was going to play through again, but the team has come out and basically admitted that they are holding off Julio Jones until the second half of the year. They're basically just trying to get him healthy because they want to make a push for the playoffs, and they want him healthy when they do that. Amon-Ra St. Brown managed to play. I did not think this was going to happen. He absolutely killed you if you started him in fantasy. Only 3.8 half-point PPR points. Wide receiver 75. That is disgusting. If you played Amon-Ra St. Brown, even though I thought he was going to be out, I am sorry. What we have found over the last 3 years is that players that play when I think they're not going to tend to do really, really poorly in fantasy. So just keep that in the back of your mind when you're starting guys, even a guy of the caliber of Amon-Ra. If I don't think they're going to play and they end up playing, you better be pretty confident in the matchup because on average, they averaged less than 10 half PPR points in those games if I didn't expect them to play. T. Higgins, he played. I kind of wish he hadn't because he re-injured his ankle. It looks like he has made it worse. We'll talk about it more a little bit later, but he was a dud. I thought you should start him. I'm sorry he got hurt immediately. There's nothing I can do. It's just part of the risk that we're having when we're playing guys that are injured. As you know, this type of thing can happen. And then I did think Khalil Herbert was going to play better than David Montgomery. I was probably a week too soon on that call. He played pretty well this week compared to DeMont, but Montgomery did have the touchdown in week 5, so he did have a pretty solid week for the running backs, RB17 and half PPR. I had some hits, though. I did not just miss last week, and that's why this show is important because it's not just injuries. It's injuries and how they affect your fantasy team. I really try to emphasize what this means for fantasy anytime I'm talking about injuries. And I said the Steelers secondary is absolutely eviscerated with injuries, and you need to be starting Buffalo Bills wide receivers, specifically Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. Not surprising, those two guys finished as the wide receiver 1 and the wide receiver 8 and half PPR last week. 2 huge games from Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. Hopefully you used my Stephon Diggs prize pick bet and won yourself some money as well. I also said that you should be starting Mike Williams. He had a big week. I know you were probably starting him already, but 134 yards, 10 catches, good for wide receiver 9 on the week in half PPR. I told you to sit Curtis Samuel, 9.2 points in half PPR. Wide receiver 34 on the week, just not getting it done. Again, Curtis Samuel dealing with some injuries. This is kind of par for the course for him. Marquise Brown, I said he was a really solid start, 17.8 half PPR points, wide receiver 10 on the week. Devin Duvernay, I said he was a flex start. Didn't have a crazy point output, but what did finish as the wide receiver 25 and half PPR points. So I think that's a flex start. And then I did tell you to pick up Brian Robinson. He's already starting this week, had a pretty solid first game against a decent Chicago Bears defense. So if you picked him up a week early, like I advised you to, you hopefully avoided having to take waiver claims on him this week, and now you have a starting running back. So you're welcome. All right, let's get into our week 6 injury update. And you might notice things are a little bit different. I wanted to change up the graphics a little bit. I talked to my boy Taylor. He's getting me hooked up. We're going to do things a little bit differently. I used to go by position. I'm going to try out something new. So let me know in the comments down below if you like it when I do the injury update show this way. But I'm going to go matchup by matchup and tell you which players from which teams in each matchup that I'm looking at from an injury perspective. So a little bit different. The graphics are going to look a little bit different. But if you like this format, please let me know in the comments so that I know if I need to tell Taylor that we need to go back to what we were doing or if we're going to keep this new format. First up, we got the 49ers and the Falcons. 49ers really don't have a whole lot offensively that's dealing with injury, but we are looking at that D-line closely, okay? Nick Bosa is dealing with a groin strain, hasn't practiced yet this week. Javon Kinlaw has a knee injury. He's not practicing yet this week. And Eric Armstead has a foot and ankle injuries that are keeping him out of practice. So we got 3 starting D-linemen for the 49ers not practicing. None of these guys are on track to play as of right now. I do think that they might, but it doesn't look good for the 49ers D-line. The problem is that I don't know if I have a single Atlanta running back that I trust in fantasy. So it's not looking good. Even though there is injuries on the D-line, I don't know how you're going to exploit that from a fantasy perspective. Maybe it's Marcus Mariota rushing. Hard to say. The Falcons do have one injury that's worth knowing, and that's Kyle Pitts. He's dealing with a hamstring strain, sat last week like I expected him to, but this injury has gotten a little bit better. He did practice in a limited fashion this week so far. He's trending towards playing, but could continue to be a disappointment from a fantasy perspective because he has a pretty tough matchup with this 49ers defense. They're allowing just the 5th fewest fantasy points per game to the tight end. They're averaging less than 6 fantasy points per game to the tight end. That's pretty stingy, and it's a tough matchup in the secondary for the Falcons, even if the D-line is a little banged up. I'm probably sitting Pitts, even though it does look like he is going to play, and I know it's tough because I'm just like you guys. I spent a lot of draft capital on Kyle Pitts, and it just doesn't look like he is going to get it done for us. Moving on to the Patriots and the Browns. The Pats have a few guys banged up right now. Mac Jones dealing with a high ankle sprain, left in week 3, hasn't played since. He's been limited in practice, but the team's coming off a shutout win. And the reports is that Jones is still dealing with some instability in that ankle, which means it's not fully healed. And we know that it is hard to tape up a high ankle sprain. It's hard to stabilize that ankle. They could try to work around it. I don't think they're going to. I think they're playing games with us once again. Mac Jones most likely going to sit this week. Damian Harris dealing with a hamstring strain. Limited in practice, but I'm not buying this one either. The Pats play all sorts of games with the injury reports, and all the reports coming out on after this injury was that it was going to be a 2 to 3 week injury, if not longer. I'm not expecting Damian Harris to play. Fire up Ramondre Stevenson. Absolutely like him in this matchup, even against a tough Browns team. I think that he's going to get the bulk of the workload. Jacoby Myers been dealing with this knee strain. Had a great week 5. Really proved that he is startable even without Mac Jones. I think that Jacoby Myers could continue to benefit from the absence of starting cornerback Denzel Ward for the Browns as well. Denzel Ward, only guy I'm really worried about on the Browns. He's dealing with a concussion, not practicing. Doesn't look like he's going to play. So that could benefit Jacoby Myers as well. And then one last one here, Jonnu Smith dealing with a low ankle sprain. He's been limited, didn't play week 5. Hunter Henry did have his best game in week 5 of the year with Jonnu Smith limited and out. So even if Smith is playing, I think Hunter Henry is still startable this week for fantasy. Going to the Jets and the Packers next. The Jets are pretty healthy, believe it or not. They're playing well. The team is healthy, so no major injuries to talk about with them, but the Packers are dealing with a couple. Aaron Rodgers has a thumb sprain, injured his thumb on the last day of the game in London. He's wearing a brace in practice, but it does seem like he is going to be able to play. And then his wide receiver, Christian Watson, dealing with a hamstring strain, has not practiced yet, doesn't appear to be in line to play in this game. Watson, honestly, is probably droppable in redraft leagues. I just don't see any way that he is going to salvage this rookie season. He's been hurt all year. Going to the Jaguars and Colts next. The Jags only really have one injury to talk about. That's Zay Jones. He's dealing with an ankle sprain, practicing in a limited fashion. Doesn't look like he's in any danger to miss this week, but just know he is a little banged up. The Colts have a lot going on. First up, we got the running back, probably the most important injury update of the week, and that's Jonathan Taylor. He's dealing with an ankle sprain, missed practice on Wednesday, but was working with a trainer on Thursday. That's a good sign. I think there's a pretty good chance that he doesn't play this week as the team kind of works him back up into full reps. I'm expecting a couple weeks off for Jonathan Taylor, even after the extended rest break. Now, his running back mate, Nyheim Hines, dealing with a concussion, kind of a scary injury. We always hate when guys get a concussion and they're very clearly showing symptoms. But Nyheim Hines did get the benefit of the doubt with a full week off. He is practicing in a limited fashion. Does look like he is on track to play as long as symptoms don't return. Then we got a couple defensive players that we need to talk about here. We got defensive end Kwity Paye dealing with a high ankle sprain. He's not likely to play. And then starting linebacker Shaq or Darius Leonard dealing with a concussion/nose fracture, not practicing, also expecting him to miss this game. Could be a big game for the Jags running backs. There's somebody I'm targeting in DFS for sure. Moving on to the Vikings and the Dolphins. The Vikings are pretty healthy. No real injuries to talk about there, but the Dolphins are dealing with quite a few, especially at the quarterback position. Tua, as we know, dealing with that concussion. He's also listed with an ankle injury as well. Limited on Wednesday, so he is getting some reps in. The team's already ruled him out for week 6, though, so we're not worried about Tua. Teddy Bridgewater also dealing with a concussion, not practicing yet this week. The team's already decided that Skylar Thompson is expected to start. What does that mean for the wide receivers? Well, the good news is that Tyreek Hill dealing with quad and foot injuries and Jalen Waddle dealing with the groin strain he's been, kind of working through the last couple weeks. Both those guys are full practicing. Both of them are going to play, so at least they get to build a little rapport with Skylar Thompson before he plays. Heading over to the Bengals at the Saints. The Bengals really only have one guy to be worried about, and that's T. Higgins. He's dealing with an ankle sprain. Like I said, he re-injured this. It was something he went into the week last week with. Thought he tried to play through, re-injured it. Hasn't practiced as of Thursday. He's going to need some work and get some work in before I trust him in fantasy again. Super far out chance that he plays, but I'm not buying it. I think the team is going to sit him for his own good. The Saints have all sorts of stuff going on at the wide receiver position and the quarterback position. Jameis Winston, dealing with those back fractures, has missed a few weeks now. He's back practicing in a limited fashion. That's a good sign. There's a chance that he plays. I still think the team's going to be a little cautious with him, especially with the Bengals not playing super well. I'm saying 50-50 right now on Jameis Winston. If you had to put a thumb on me, I'd say they sit him one more week. But again, I think it's a 50-50 as of this recording. His wide receivers are all banged up. Michael Thomas is dealing with a toe sprain. Hasn't practiced yet. Doesn't look like he is going to come back. He's already missed the last 2 games with this injury. Missing a third game is not out of the realm of possibilities. In fact, I think it's most likely going to happen. No Michael Thomas this week. Jarvis Landry dealing with an ankle sprain. He's not practicing. Looks like he's going to miss a second week. Chris Olave left with a concussion. Scary. Once again, anytime we see major concussion type symptoms on the field, that's always a concern. But Olave did get limited work in on Wednesday. As long as his symptoms stay away, there's a good chance that he could come back in this game. I wonder always if we're going to get to a point where concussions are a mandatory week off. I don't know if that will happen in the NFL. I'm just very curious to see where we go with these concussions. And we're just hoping that nothing happens with Olave with this concussion coming back in such a short amount of time if he plays this week. One more that I think you definitely need to be paying attention to in this one is starting cornerback Marshawn Lattimore, the cornerback 1 for the team, maybe one of the 5 best cornerbacks in the league right now. He's dealing with an abdominal injury. He's not practicing for the Saints. Doesn't look like he is ready to play. So that is going to set up my Prize Pick play of the week. Head on over to Prize Picks. Use the code Headliners to get 100% first deposit match up to $100. If you use the code Headliners, you got to get on this because it just seems too good to be true. Prize Pick has Taysom Hill's fantasy point over under. Get this, 3 points. If that sounds insane to you, it should, because I don't think there's any chance that Taysom Hill scores less than 3 points. So I'm going to take the over on that. And I'm also just going to double down on this game. I'm going to take the over on Ja'Marr Chase, over 77.5 receiving yards. I just think that if Marshawn Lattimore misses this game, I think that with the Saints wide receivers banged up, Taysom Hill is going to play well. And with Marshawn Lattimore banged up, I think, and T. Higgins out, most likely, I think Ja'Marr Chase is in line for a big week. And I think that you can pair those two up and win yourself some money over at Prize Picks. And moving on to the Ravens and the Giants. The Ravens are dealing with Rashad Bateman's foot sprain. Missed week 5. Doesn't look like he's on track to play this week. He's missed 5 straight practices now. This is clearly not getting better quickly. So don't plan on having Rashad Bateman this week. Devin Duvernay, again, another flex spot for him if you like him. Not a super high-end option, but they are playing the Giants. And the Giants are dealing with some injury, bad luck on their own. Saquon Barkley's got a shoulder sprain. He's limited on Wednesday. He played through this. I expect him to play through it again, but it's just worth knowing. He's getting a Baltimore run defense. It's 12th best in the league in terms of rushing yard allowed. So Saquon Barkley a little banged up and heading into a not so great matchup. We'll see if he can pull it out. You're obviously starting Saquon Barkley, but it's just worth knowing that he is a little banged up. Heading over to the Buccaneers at my Steelers. The Bucs have a couple wide receivers dealing with issues. Julio Jones, partial PCL tear. Surprise sit last week, like I talked about earlier in the show. Doesn't appear to be practicing. Not likely to play. Russell Gage dealing with an ankle sprain. He's been working with trainers in practice, but it doesn't look like he's on track to play this week either. Pittsburgh, again, the secondary, super banged up. Cam Sutton, Witherspoon, Wallace, Minkah Fitzpatrick, all missing practice time right now due to injuries. They are beat up. They just got absolutely smoked by the Bills. So whatever wide receivers are playing for the Bucs, I'm probably in on. I really like Chris Godwin this week as well. I think he's a really solid wide receiver to start. Pittsburgh also has an injury at the tight end position. Pat Freiermuth coming off a concussion. Didn't practice Thursday, and typically when we see no practices Wednesday or Thursday with concussions, it's a good indicator that they're going to sit. There is still a slight chance he could get cleared, but it's not looking likely. Zach Gentry does look to be in line to start, but he's not really a sexy start in terms of streamer options. I think you could find better. Moving over to the Panthers and the Rams. The Panthers quarterback Baker Mayfield dealing with a high ankle sprain, not likely to play with this injury for a few weeks. Normal return to play with a high ankle sprain is about 4 to 6 weeks for quarterbacks. Sam Darnold's still hurt, so he's dealing with his own high ankle sprain. So PJ Walker expected to start. Could PJ Walker win this job? I don't know, but I'd like to see it because I think he's more fun to watch play football than Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold at this point. The Rams are dealing with some pretty major injuries on the offensive and defensive side. Cooper Kupp's got a foot injury. Tyler Higbee's got an ankle sprain, and Aaron Donald also has a foot injury. So, 2 major foot injuries for the Rams. Of the 3, only Darnold really has failed to practice this week. Kupp and Higbee both got Wednesday rest. They're on track to play. I'm going to guess that PJ Walker is kind of hoping and praying that Donald does not play this week. PJ Walker probably praying for that because if he plays, Aaron Donald will probably eat PJ Walker for lunch. Moving on to the Cardinals and the Seahawks. The Cardinals got running back James Conner dealing with a rib injury. This rib injury does appear to be pretty serious. It's already expected to miss this game, and he's expected to miss possibly more games. Benjamin, kind of an interesting start at running back. The Seahawks have been really, really bad against the running back so far this year. Kicker Matt Prater's dealing with a groin strain. Doesn't look like he's on track to play, so pick up another kicker if you're trusting Matt Prater. The Seahawks don't really have any major injuries, so this could be another game where I think the Seahawks are going to put up some points, and I think they could surprise the Cardinals, even though I don't necessarily know if the Seahawks are that big of a surprise because the Cardinals don't seem to be that good yet. We'll see what happens with that. Moving into the primetime games, the games I care about the most, we got the Bills and the Chiefs. This one is a must-watch for me this week. Bills only have Dawson Knox dealing with injuries, foot and hamstring strain. Missed week 5, back practicing, though, in a limited fashion. I'm expecting him to play, but I'm probably sitting him for fantasy purposes. He's not scoring touchdowns at the rate he did last year, so I just don't know if you can trust Dawson Knox right now. The Chiefs only have to worry about their kicker, Harrison Butker. He's dealing with that left ankle sprain he had at the beginning of the year. Still dealing with that. Hasn't played since then, but he does look like he is expected to return this week. Go ahead and check your waiver wires for him if you need kicker help. Harrison Butker, still one of the better kickers in the game and one of the few guys that I trust outside of 50 yards consistently. So Harrison Butker appears to be on track to play. Another game that I think is a must-watch is Cowboys at the Eagles. Cowboys are, quarterback Dak Prescott dealing with a thumb surgery. He's still not practicing. Looks like he's going to sit a few more weeks, especially with the way Cooper Rush is playing right now. Cowboys also have a defensive injury that's worth paying attention to. Micah Parsons dealing with a groin strain. He hasn't been practicing, but he did come out and say he fully expects to play in this game. Huge game for the Cowboys, so I'd be stunned if Parsons wasn't on the field. Just know he might not be as effective as he normally is. Making a bid for Defensive Player of the Year is Micah Parsons, so definitely want to see him healthy and producing. The Eagles don't really have anything to talk about, so we're just going to move on to our Monday Night Football matchup. We got the Broncos and the Chargers. On paper, this game should have been amazing, but Russell Wilson dealing with a right latissimus dorsi tear, had an injection on this injury, which has been bothering him now for a few weeks, apparently. Why didn't we say anything about it earlier? I don't know, but it just come out. He's dealing with a lat strain. He's still expected to play, but man, I just can't help but wonder if this is just one part of the reason why he's looked so bad this season. Is it an excuse? I don't know, but Russell Wilson has not looked good. I don't know if I trust him or any of his offensive weapons, even against a matchup that is exploitable in the Chargers defense. The Chargers really don't have to worry about Keenan Allen dealing with that hamstring strain. Is this the week for Keenan Allen? I don't know. Probably not. But are you willing to risk waiting until Monday night to find out? That's the question. I don't think Allen's going to play, but is he back practicing in a limited fashion? Yes. So that's good. That's a good sign that he is at least trending back in the positive direction again. Unless we get like 100% confirmation by Saturday, I'm probably sitting Allen for fantasy. I'm finding another option because I just don't want to wait until Monday night and then find out that he's hurt. And then I'm starting somebody that, is probably not going to put up any fantasy points, or I'm trying to make a quick ad off the waiver wire. It's just don't give yourself too much work in these early, season games. Don't make it hard on yourself. Just find a good replacement for Allen right now. And if he plays, just say, okay, well, we probably didn't want to play him coming off a major hamstring strain anyway. So that's it, guys. Week 6 injury update show is in the books. Make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure that you are slamming that notification button so that you don't miss out on any injury goodness that the doc is providing to you. You don't want to miss these updates. You don't want to be the guy that's stuck starting somebody in your fantasy lineup that is a last minute sit because you didn't watch the injury show. I'm hitting it 9 out of 10 times. Okay, giving you the heads up when these guys are hurt so that you can make educated decisions on Friday and Saturday instead of being surprised Sunday morning. I want to thank our sponsors over at Fantrax, Prize Picks, and Manscaped. Use code Headliners at all three to let them know that the Fantasy Headliners sent you. But that's it, guys. That's all I got for week 6. Let me know that you loved the show in the comments down below. Got a little flow going, and the doc is out.